Okay. You ready? Let's do this. You're listening to Explore Magazine's Live the Adventure podcast. This is the podcast that delves deep into the outdoors, will inspire, inform, and get you stoked to explore. And I'm your host, David Webb. Welcome to episode 41 of Explore Magazine's Live the Adventure podcast. I'm your host, David Webb. Travel. We love it. We travel locally, regionally, domestically, and internationally, and we bring back the greatest memories of our lives. Adventures, connections, experiences, photographs, stories, friends, sometimes even lovers. But sometimes travel can have a cost. Your carbon footprint, overtourism, burdening destinations. Every year that goes by, we learn more and more about this. So, do we stop? No. There's a way to travel better. There are people who are encouraging slow, deep, meaningful travel where money supports locals, and the connections and experiences you have are deeper and richer than ever before. Does that sound like the kind of travel you're into? Well, if so, stay tuned, because I'm talking to Keri Montgomery and Nicola Wilson, and they're the owners and operators of Finisterre Travel, a Vancouver-based travel agency that specializes in meaningful travel. So we're going to dig in, find a bit more about Keri and Nicola, their travel journey, the destinations they're excited about, and how they curate and encourage a richer form of travel that leaves places better than they found them. Stay tuned for Keri Montgomery and Nicola Wilson. All right, Keri Montgomery and Nicola Wilson, welcome to Explore Magazine's Live the Adventure podcast. Keri, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. Sun is shining, no complaints.
Yeah, Nicola.
Same, yeah. I'm really enjoying summer in Vancouver. It's the best time to be in town, so happy days.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Last few weeks here have been epic, and it looks like it's staying around for most of July. So it's good.
Action-packed.
Absolutely. So, starting with you, Keri, I wonder if you could introduce yourself to our listeners. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, these are good questions. I'm Keri Montgomery, the co-owner of Finisterre Travel, originally from Lethbridge, Alberta.
Nice.
Made my way out to the West Coast and never really looked back. Led tours around the world for 5 years, which got me hooked on the travel bug and led me to eventually founding Finisterre.
Nice. And Nicola, how about you?
I am Nicola Wilson, the other co-owner and operator of Finisterre Travel. My founding story isn't as exciting as Keri's. I was born and raised in Vancouver, so I didn't move around much. But I did start traveling after I finished university, and then just kind of backpacked all around the world, became super addicted. I would go home, work for a year, and then go back and travel for 8 months as much as I could. So also very addicted to traveling, which led me to find Keri and then join Finisterre Travel.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, hey, follow your passions, right? You both love travel, and now you're operating Finisterre Travel. So before we get further, what is Finisterre Travel, Keri?
Yeah. I'm a boutique tour operator and travel designers based in Vancouver. We like to think we offer our travelers a different type of experience, one that they can't just punch into ChatGPT and create an itinerary from. Something very, very authentic.
How long have you been around?
I founded Finisterre in 2012.
That's great. That's actually right about the time I started with Explore Magazine. Time goes quickly when you're doing something you love. Why did you decide to found this company?
Well, yeah, I led tours around the world for a company, which was an incredible experience. You know, the connections you got to make with people. And, you know, these were people who, the operators on the ground, they were people who I met their families. And so I had this deep connection with people I worked in over 35 countries as an international tour leader. So I always thought there was a little bit better way to do travel. And one day that's what I wanted to do. And so after I led tours for 5 years, I thought I'd get a real job. I managed an inbound tour company in Vancouver. And then I said, you know, as much as I love this part of the world, I miss the international travel aspect.
Right.
I called upon all those connections that I had made while tour leading and created Finisterre in 2012.
That's amazing. And Nicola, so when did you come in and how did that connection happen?
Yeah, so I actually Keri and I worked in the same office. We overlapped for a month right before she went. I was working at a kind of more traditional travel agency that just did flights, cruises, all-inclusives, the boring stuff. And so I was like, Keri, you're leaving to do what? Start this international travel company? That is a dream job.
And she said, if there's ever a chance we could work together,
Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
I worked at my job for a few years, and then 2015, she and I connected, and I just said, I think I'm kind of bored at my current job. I'm ready for a change. I think I'm going to leave. And she just goes, do you want to work with me? And I said, yeah. And so that's kind of how we started working together. And I just said, I want to also work for myself and help run the show and be as passionate and involved. And she was like, yeah, I want a partner. And so that's giddy up. That's how we did it.
What was it about the two of you, your connection, that was such a natural fit like that?
I think we just, from the get-go, we had such synergy. And, I'd never met anybody who was Nicola's age that had traveled as extensively as she had. That wasn't her job. So,
I felt the passion.
And we just got along. We hit it off right away. And I knew I needed a right-hand woman. It was you.
I love it. I can definitely tell that you work well together.
We do.
So your travel experience, you traveled a lot. I saw, as I was doing some research, you're using this sort of hashtag or phrase, worldly girlies. What does that mean?
Worldly girlies. Well, I think in a nutshell, that's sort of what we are.
It kind of just came organically. I just started hashtagging it on things and then evolved into our hashtag.
I mean, worldly girlies, it's sort of self-explanatory in a way. It's women who like to travel or are completely addicted to travel.
Yeah. And I think, for me, for example, a lot of my friends kind of had this path that they did, finish university, got a job, got married, had kids, bought a house, etc. And neither of us really fit into that mold. And so I think for us, worldly girlies kind of describes just our love for the world.
So, Keri, you mentioned you hadn't met anyone Nicola's age who had traveled as extensively. Nicola, I just want to talk about that a little bit. What is your travel experience and why was that important to you?
That's a great question. My first kind of big international trip I ever did was to India when I was in first year university with my dad. He had a factory there and he had a business partner who was Indian. And so he just said, do you want to go to India for spring break? And I was like, yeah, sure. That sounds cool. I'd been to Mexico on a school trip and before, but nothing really exciting. And I went with my dad. We got invited to his business partner's cousin's nephew's wedding. We went there and it was full on, but I loved it, After that, I was like, where else can I go? What else can I do? And so from then I started backpacking, traveling all over. I did a 2-month trip to Europe. The next year I did a 9-month round the world trip where I went to every other continent except for South America and Antarctica. And then 2 years later, I was able to get to South America and Antarctica. So kind of did that all backpacking on my own dime. I worked to travel.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you would come home, raise the money and go traveling.
Yeah. Dad was like, you have to stop living under my roof and get a real job. Yeah.
And so all that travel, what did that give you?
It really helped me. It really developed me as a person. I was quite shy in high school. Obviously, I had a lot of friends, but I was shy and I hated public speaking and hated meeting new people. And you have to do that. I was backpacking almost 20 years ago now.
No smartphones. You go into that hostel and you say, hey, where are you coming from? Hey, and then you might change your whole path based on that one conversation.
Exactly. A lot of the friends that I met backpacking, I'm still really good friends with.
Wow.
And that was another thing. You just make these friendships, these connections with people from all over the world. and they stay with you and they're really meaningful.
And Keri, so you were leading group tours. What was the precursor to that?
Oh, the precursor was also something similar to Nicola.
Yeah.
Every spare dime I had went into the travel fund. And my first big trip I took a semester off university with a boyfriend at the time and went on a 3-month backpacking trip around Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador, which
Nice.
at the time was pretty sketchy, I would say.
And you didn't speak a word of Spanish?
No Spanish at that time, which you really sure needed. Then I was hooked. I was hooked from the moment. I backpacked all over Southeast Asia as well. I lived in Japan for 2 years and as an English teacher.
Nice.
Eventually saw this ad in the Georgia Strait that said they were looking for tour leaders to lead groups of people around the world. The descriptor was so on point for me that I actually looked at my roommate and asked her if she had put this ad in the Georgia Strait.
Is this a prank?
Had to, traveled and had this degree here and that degree and blah, blah, blah. And I was, did you put this in here? No. So it was made for me.
That's so cool. It's interesting to think because I haven't traveled as extensively as you, but I did start traveling, 20-ish years ago as well. Yes. Yeah. Well, it is what it is. How do you feel travel has changed in that time? And what are people looking for today that they may not have been looking for 20 years ago?
Well, the Instagrammable moment.
Well, yeah, for the better, for the worse.
Yeah.
That one's
for the worst. That's a tough trend that, that started up as long as Instagram's been around. And that is unfortunate.
It's ruined some places. Like Bali, for example. People just think, oh, I want to go and take a picture on this Bali swing where you wear a flowy dress and a hat.
Floppy hat.
And that's all people want to go to Bali for. They have zero knowledge about the destination. They don't have any desire really to learn. They just want nice photos.
I would say the other thing that the smartphones, for the better, for the worse, have really changed the way we travel. I mean, I love it for maps, for example. It's the best.
Yeah.
Google Maps, there are a lot of perks.
Listen, I've tried to get rid of my smartphone. I've looked at getting the quote unquote dumb phone, but I'm like, there's just too much that I also need on it, Anyway, yes. Yeah.
An extension of us.
Yeah.
And, back in the day when you'd go into a hostel and you'd actually have to speak to other humans if you wanted to continue on traveling. Now, people are just on their phones. It's sort of sad. The whole point of being in a hostel is sort of, not that we're staying in hostels so much anymore, but I have visited them. It's such a strange,
people don't talk to each other. They're sitting in the lounge. But I do think we've almost gotten to a point where we're getting past that and people now want to reconnect. They realize oh my gosh, I'm on my phone 100% of the time at home. Why would I be on my phone 100% of the time when I travel?
Yeah.
And so I think people are becoming more and more aware of themselves and being like, I need to kind of disconnect to reconnect. It's shifting again for the better.
Yeah, that's cool. So Keri and Nicola, you both sort of have indicated that Instagram sort of negative over-tourism, vapid tourism, perhaps, that has happened since, particularly over the past 10 years, probably. So it seems like maybe Finisterre does something different than that. So, Keri, what kind of travel do you facilitate?
We work with local partners in every destination we offer. And our partners are people who share the same sort of values as we do. Traveling as sustainably as possible and connection. People want to connect. They want to connect to people in place. And this is what we really help facilitate. Sort of those authentic experiences that you can't just Google and figure out for yourself.
And I think also you can go and take a photo of something, but you're not going to really remember that experience. So we kind of try to create memorable experiences, which really revolve around the connection, as Keri mentioned. But then you feel connected to the place that you go to. You're tasting the food, you're smelling the smell, you're hearing the sound,
savoring the experience.
Certainly, all my favorite travel moments have come from something more immersive and something deeper. There's usually a human connection often, or perhaps a deep wilderness connection, but a human connection can make it that much more rich and memorable for sure. But how do you balance that? Because people are going to want to get their travel photos. That's nothing new, right? People always wanted to take travel photos. The sharing and the social currency of it is new. But yeah, or do you just appeal to that niche audience who is already striving for something new, or do you have to convince people?
There's people that'll come to us with an idea of what they want to see because it's what they know and what they've seen. So if they want to go to Peru, they want to go to Machu Picchu. They know that. I've been 12 times to Machu Picchu. I'm not a person who's going to tell you not to go to Machu Picchu. But Peru is so much more than one entity. And of course, you can take your photos, you can experience Machu Picchu, but that's not what you take home with you. And so we really pepper in these sort of authentic experiences into when we're creating these itineraries that maybe our travelers hadn't thought about. And sometimes, we push it, not too much, but we encourage them. For example, I was just in Peru and I went to this small community where I sat with a group of Quechuan women whose second language was Spanish, first language is Quechua. And we sat around on the ground peeling potatoes, then we peeled corn, and we peeled lima beans, and we just chatted about life. And for me, this is that feeling that I had, the sun is setting, peeling potatoes with these women on the ground and feeling this is what they do in daily life. This is daily life here. And that is what that's the sort of experiences you take away with you. That's the feeling you create.
And I think the first time clients will book with us, they'll say, we want to do this, this, and this. Okay, you can do this, this, and this, but also how about this and this, types of experiences like this. And then they'll do one trip with us and they're like, oh yeah, no, you just plan whatever, the 100% trust whatever we say for the next time. And so
I love that.
Really, we try and slow the down because, they might come to us and say they want to go to Croatia, Slovenia, and Italy in 2 weeks. And we say, how about we pick one? Don't do that. Don't do that.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So it really is a consultative approach then. And so when you're looking at destinations then, how do you create a slow itinerary?
Some of the destinations, of course, have their one big selling feature, like the Galapagos in Ecuador. We do, of course, we would encourage people to go there, but it's how our approach to it is sort of experiencing it a little differently. We work really closely with our partners on the ground, and we go back and forth with them a lot to sort of create an itinerary that makes sense for both our clients and sort of our philosophy on travel as well. So we do lean heavily on the experience of our partners and align ourselves with people who have the same sort of values as we do. So we really trust them.
In terms of your partners, you're aligning with the partners that have the same value.
Exactly. Yeah. And that in turn creates trust with our clients as well. We start there with a lot of back and forth with our partners on the ground in XYZ country to create something. And then, of course, the clients have as much input as they'd like. So if they want a more active or they want more culinary experiences, we just really tailor it to their desires.
We do spend a lot of time with them, the clients at the beginning, really understanding what type of travel they want to do. We do have clients who want to be busy all hours of every day, and they want to do this activity in the morning, this activity in the evening. We recommend spending at least 3 or 4 nights in each kind of city or destination so you get to experience it.
Slow doesn't have to be lazy. Think of it as immersing more in a destination rather than just like hopping constantly. You're in a destination and immersing in it. But hey, you want to get up at first light and go all day until go.
And that's the thing is we had a client recently contacted us, a mother and son going to Europe for the first time and for 3 weeks. And she said, my son put together this itinerary through ChatGPT. And he, it goes Amsterdam, Paris, Bordeaux, London, blah, 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 like all these places. And I just said, no, you're not due because it was moving every 2 or 3 nights. And I just said, it takes time to get to each place. If you're taking the trains, you're going to spend 4 or 5 hours minimum traveling and you're not going to experience anything. I just said, take out Luxembourg. You don't need to go there. It's super expensive. You can go, add this instead. Slow it down. And she said, thank you. Thank you for telling me that. And so I think we were just brutally honest and saying, it's not going to be enjoyable.
How do you find all your partners? So you're saying you're connecting with partners around the world who share your values, who want to give these experiences. I know sustainable travel is a big part of what you do from my research and what you've said already, which also means very likely keeping money local, things like that. Nicola, I wonder if you could speak to how you find, connect, and vet these partners around the world.
Yeah, so we are longtime members of the Adventure Travel Trade Association, and that has been the best resource. You ask your peers, your fellow tour outbound kind of travel operators, hey, do you know someone in Bolivia that you would recommend? And then they've been trusted also to be a member of the ATTA. You have to have some sort of sustainability kind of certification commitment. That is our number one resource. And we do a lot of the trade shows, meeting people face to face as well.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Two trends you've mentioned, both of you, has been the Instagram trend, which is not new. I've been around for a while. We all know and have seen that and have seen the gramification of destinations and over-tourism. Now we're looking at AI. ChatGPT is another trend. Keri, I wonder if you could speak to the travel agent's role, the travel agency's role in the era of AI.
As we're not a typical travel agent per se, for us, AI is helpful. I use ChatGPT to help us with making our itineraries sound much better than what they initially were. And I think AI is fantastic. I think it's got a long way to go. I don't think you can punch into ChatGPT about making a connection with Quechua woman in a remote part of Peru. That's just not going to happen. And I think, if you're looking for a very traditional sort of travel where you want to go to Rome, you want to stay in the center of Rome, you want to go to the Colosseum, then you want to go to Florence, and you want to do, the Uffizi Museum, you can probably use AI to create an itinerary for you. But if you want to actually experience things and meet people and connect to where you are, I think that's really where we come in. There's so much information out there. It's information overload.
Well, and I think you'll also, if you use AI to create your itinerary, you're going to be doing the same itinerary as everybody else. So you're going to be in the horde.
That's a great point. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting to think of that. How, it's, augmented Google search, and it's going to be giving the same answers. If you ask the same questions, no matter where you are in the world, it's going to give you the same answers.
Yeah, it will give you the same itinerary to everyone else.
Yeah.
And so, who wants that?
No, my entire goal with travel now is just to avoid crowds.
How do you do that in 2025? Because, Machu Picchu, for example, you do want people to go there. Okay, there's going to be some crowds there, right? But I mean, how do you suss out a destination and have people going against the flow or weaving in and out of the flow?
I think in a lot of these destinations, they have very set tour times and very set entrance visits and things like that. I think it's working with our partners on the ground, for one, to know what time does this site open. It's maybe you're getting up earlier than you had anticipated, or it's going to a destination. For example, I went to Chachapoyas I was just in Chachapoyas because it's fun to say.
I don't know where that is.
I have been to Peru 12 to 14 times. And we visited this site, which is the third bigger than Machu Picchu. And we were the only people there. Mm-hmm. It was extraordinary. And I think
there are so many places like that.
Many places like that. You just take one step to the right or one step to the left, and the way you experience it, it's being a little more creative, and maybe you get from point A to point B on foot or by e-bike rather than in a van like everybody else. Make it a little more interesting. Getting to the quote destination part of the adventure.
Mm-hmm. And we're very fortunate in our industry in that we're hosted a lot of places. So we get to experience kind of more off the beaten path places and destinations. Tourism boards, local partners, etc., want to showcase different parts of the country. Mm-hmm. They don't need to advertise Rome or Machu Picchu.
They want to diversify.
And so they are taking us to places like Chachapoyas or more off the beaten paths. So we're educated about them, and then we can then educate our travelers.
Really interesting. You just made me think about a trip of my own I did years back. It was actually with the Adventure Travel Trade Association. We went into Petra, which is a very popular spot in Jordan, but we went through the back door really early in the morning. You probably know what I'm talking about. What it ended up doing was getting us to spots that the crowds hadn't gotten to yet, and then actually moving us against the flow so that by the time we got to the start, where it's most crowded, all those crowds had actually moved through. And it was this sort of like ingenious little thing that I would have never thought of on my own to help make a better experience. So I love those. You can make those little tweaks, or you can find an entirely new destination, Chichapoya, very few, say, Canadian travelers might have heard of.
Exactly. They don't have to be giant tweaks. It's just smart decisions that make a massive difference.
What trips are exciting you right now, Nicola?
One of our big trips that we're just announcing is to southern Japan. And that's for our 10-year anniversary of us being together, Worldly Girly. Keri and I are both leading it. It's in southern Japan. Japan's a destination everyone goes to. Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka.
Very hot right now. Yeah, very, very hot. Very popular as well.
My brother and his partner went a couple of years ago at the end of March to Kyoto, Osaka, Tokyo. I said, don't go there. It's cherry blossom season. It's going to be so busy. They kind of had the Instagram, and they were like, it was terrible. We even got at 6 a.m. to go to the bamboo forest, and there were so many people there because everyone gets up at 6 a.m. to see the bamboo forest.
Not a secret, eh?
Oh, the thing is Japan is huge. There's so much to see. And so this trip that we're doing has a little bit more of a focus on wellness and outdoors and hiking, food, obviously. You cannot go to Japan and not go to food. So
that's so cool. So southern Japan and what else on the horizon? What are some other, let's get some travel inspiration flowing.
So we do the tailor-made trips for people where people will contact us and ask us to design something. And then we do the small group trips as well. And small groups, we work with a lot of experts and we do expert-led tours. So we're working with a travel writer named Claudia Leroy, local.
Claudia writes for Explore. We know Claudia.
We know that. So Claudia is doing a writing trip to Morocco.
Yeah.
Creative writing trip.
So cool. I love it. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we work with a vegan influencer based in Portland, Oregon. She has a company called Vegan Ventures, and we partnered with her to do trips to Sri Lanka, Morocco, and Mexico City and Merida, which is exciting.
That's super interesting. Yeah, I was just talking about this the other day. I was in Chile in December, and there was a vegan with me, and she had some difficulty. So we were talking about, even the bread had egg in it most of the time.
Yes.
We were chatting about that, about not just finding solutions for that, but also communicating through language barriers or getting the message across in an area that might not be able to accommodate. People are lovely everywhere, right? No one's got ill intent, but they might not be able to accommodate. So that's a neat take for sure. So then that leads me to another question. So there's a niche that you have, which is great, but who fills it? When you're looking for people or who come to you, your Canadian company, who travels with you? Who's your avatar? Who's the person who comes?
Well, I wouldn't say we have one avatar. We sort of have multiple,
depending on the trip.
Yeah, but I think the common thread throughout all is that everyone who travels with us has a deep curiosity and a desire to experience, not only to see the world or see certain destinations, but also experience it. Our clients are Canadian, our clients are American. They run the full gamut from early 20s up until mid 80s. It just sort of depends on destination and what they're looking for. But I would say definitely this sense, this desire to explore and dig a little deeper than the surface.
People that have an interest, and especially with our group trips, they are thematic group trips. People who have an interest in writing or creativity. We do photography trips. So people who have an interest in photography or
painting retreats or surfing
or culinary trips.
So you've got thematic group trips, and those are scheduled departures, I would assume.
Yeah.
And then you also just do a bespoke creation for clients or new or returning who would come to you with a concept.
Correct.
Or does anyone just come to you with a blank slate?
Yes. They're kind of like a blob of Play-Doh, and you really got to mold that to figure out what they want. But, they're good and bad because some of them just say, I want to go to Madagascar. Okay, here you go. And then they'll say, cool, great. And then you're like, really? You don't want to make any? Yeah.
And they say, yeah, no, that's fine. But then some of them who think they have a blank slate, but then they don't because they actually have a lot of things in their mind.
On our website, we have all these sample itineraries just so that when people decide, oh, I want to go to Sri Lanka, they have an idea of what they can experience in Sri Lanka. And then every now and then someone will say, oh, I want that exact same itinerary. And it's that feeling where you're
Winning
like,
the lottery.
you mean you don't want to change anything?
That's great. So your company is obviously women-owned, and you also create a lot of women-led tours. I want to talk about that a little bit and what that means to you and your clients and how that came to be. Keri, if you could speak to that.
Well, I think we do everything we can to support women, empower women. We love men as well. Don't feel neglected. And men can come with a lot of our time. No problem. And I think women traveling with other women, it creates this sort of a really safe space and this level of comfort that you don't necessarily have when there's mixed genders. My sister owns Canada's largest surfing school, Surf Sister in Tofino.
Oh, I love Surf Sister. That's your sister? Your sister owns Surf Sister?
Yeah,
I love it. That's amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've covered them in Explore over the years. And I'm from Vancouver Island originally, so I know Tofino well. I don't think I've ever done a course with them, but I know the company well. Yes, not yet.
And her philosophy was sort of the same, just, getting women in the water. And it wasn't no shade thrown to men at all. It's just, you
creating a comfort zone. I was going to say, speaking of the Surf Sister, that was kind of where we started our women-only trips, is we partnered with Surf Sister, and we do Surf Sister abroad camps in El Salvador.
I did notice that. I didn't know that direct connection there, though, as well. Yeah, that's so cool. There's Surf Sister is such a well-known company. It seemed like a natural fit anyway, but that's cool.
For a lot of people, men or women, learning a new skill, you're vulnerable, you're at your worst, you get frustrated, you're beat down. And so it's a really good space for women only to feel comfortable learning a new skill and not feeling competitive because there are men there that you're trying to impress or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just,
and sometimes it leads into spontaneous dance parties.
It's just an awesome kind of community that's created.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you get a lot of return clients on those trips?
Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. We get a lot of return clients on the small group trips. We get a lot of return clients on our bespoke itineraries.
We get a lot of return clients who will go on a group trip and then say, hey, I want to do this with my family this time. You help us do a tailor-made trip. There's a lot of crossover between that as well.
Yeah.
Do you find your clients are mostly experienced travelers or are they newbies?
I would say the vast majority are quite experienced. A lot of them had traveled independently when they were younger, and now they don't want to have to think about this. They want to pay somebody to plan all of this so that it's all taken care of.
The best feedback we get from people is, they're saying, we got picked up at the airport and then we just didn't have to think of anything the entire time. It's going to somewhere like Peru or India, and you're picked up and then everything's kind of planned. They tell you when you're getting picked up tomorrow, what you're doing. They take you to a safe restaurant to eat that's clean, you're not going to get sick and things like that. People really value that.
They're on a vacation. Yeah. It's like a real vacation.
I totally get that. We've all had our backpacking days and flying by the seat of your pants adventures and things going wrong and super fun and stuff. And but you get to that more mature decision and you realize that there's sometimes that idea of having an itinerary planned for you or booked out for you, it puts people into that fly and flop mentality where it's like, I want some more adventure than that. It's like, but what if I just put together your travel and then your connections and your hotel stays and stuff like that? But then you're going in an immersive experience. You're meeting people. You're going offline. You're doing something totally original, not having to spend 6 months of your life planning it and have it go wrong in the end or whatever and still have that amazing experience. So it's a cool mindset for sure.
Yeah. I remember reading something that said the average person spends 40 hours planning a 1-week vacation.
I believe it. It's definitely a mindset. And to be honest, I'm sure because you're working with partners and your experience and your connections, it's not as if these people planning it are probably saving any money anyway.
If they put together the same itinerary on their own, it's going to end up costing more. It's just the reality.
In my research of Finisterre, there's a lot of verbiage about community engagement and community empowerment around the globe. Keri, I wonder if you could just speak to why that was important to you as a business owner and a business ethos.
I think it even goes back to our backpacking days. When you start traveling, you become very empathetic as to what other situations in the world and maybe the less fortunate. And so I think when starting Finicera, I knew it was important to support community projects, locally owned hotels, local restaurants, the women's co-ops, things like this, so that the money really trickles down. We do our best never to send clients to chain hotels and things like that. It's really important to us that the money goes further. And, one person in a family might work in tourism, and the money that person makes might trickle down to 10, 15.
They're supporting an entire family.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you think of these big companies like cruise ships, that none of the money that you pay towards a cruise ship goes to the community. It goes to the big corporation. They build up the piers that you're visiting. They open the shops on the piers. They say you have to book the excursion with us because if you book with a local, we won't wait for you if you're late. But we'll wait for you folks through the cruise. And so they capture all your money and nothing goes to the community. And then they're just dumping the garbage in the ocean. They're awful. And so we were like, we don't want to do travel like that. It's really important to positively impact the communities that we're visiting.
You want the people, that's the thing, you want them to benefit. You want people you're visiting to benefit and to genuinely be happy to see, see their visitors come in, the travelers. Because I'm sure we've all been in experiences where whether it's high season in somewhere like Barcelona or what have you, where people get a little crotchety when they see you. So, they don't want you.
Yeah. And, you start to think, oh, why? I'm a tourist. I'm supporting and then you realize that you're actually not. You're just kind of a burden on everything and everyone.
Yeah. And we never want travelers to feel that way. Visiting co-ops or communities and interacting with people and asking questions, learning about that. Well, that's super important.
We live in Vancouver. We all see cruise ships coming in and we know all-inclusive resorts are full. But do you see a trend moving towards your style more and more as this niche grows?
Big time.
Yeah, I would say 100%.
I think particularly post-COVID, imagine being stuck in a cruise ship in an inside cabin. You can't leave for however long people were stuck on cruise ships.
Those were nightmares. Those were nightmare scenarios. So those early days of COVID, that one in Japan, it was out of a horror movie.
And then that new documentary out on Netflix.
Oh, the poop cruise? Yeah. I kind of want to watch it, but I can't bring myself to watch it yet.
I haven't seen it, but no, people talking. Yeah. And so, I think people are like, oh, there's better ways. Yeah. It has to be a better way, And I think, to be honest, I think a lot of people who do say the more typical, more classic sort of forms of travel, it's just that they've never been exposed. They don't know. They don't really know that there's people like us that can completely tailor a trip to exactly what you want. Well, even like Keri, for such an example, they were pretty avid cruisers 10, 15 years ago that every other year they do a cruise and they were like, we love it. I planned a trip for our family, my parents, my brother, and I, to go to Egypt and Jordan in January of 2020. So we had already been working together for 5 years. And my mom was like, this is the best trip ever. Because you planned it all. We could move around. We saw these, we avoided the crowds. I was like, Mom, this is what I did. But even like my own mother didn't really know what we did until she experienced it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Such a great story. And it's such a great word of mouth to think that someone could have had this pre-existing conception of what travel was. Standing in lines and marching onto a boat and blah, 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 and this, that, and you come back kind of bloated and feeling lethargic and realizing that it's not. And I had in my notes to ask you about how your travel style creates joy, but I think you've actually painted that picture about the idea that someone can go there and have these joyful experiences, these immersive experiences, these unexpected experiences, and also feel good about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think, so much joy comes in connecting with people, right? Like, I went to a women's co-op in Uganda recently, and we were kind of waiting for somebody to do some intros. And I was like, this feels weird because I'm over here sitting, they're sitting over here. So I just went over and started talking to them. Within 3 minutes, we had a full-blown dance party going. And then when the translator actually came in, they were like, clearly you don't need yachting.
I love that. Yeah.
All the barriers right through this. Yeah.
Well, there are so many universalities. Language is just one way we communicate. We have the same desire for connection and happiness. It's cool to see that and be able to travel the world and feel good about what you're doing. Because travel's got those carbon footprints, those worries that you're trotting down areas that should be left alone. And it's nice to know that there are people out there like you who are looking at that through a different lens and saying, no, we can still travel. We can still experience the globe and enjoy this way.
Yeah. And it then benefits people. It benefits us because, it benefits travelers. I think you become much more empathetic. And then, the trickle-down effect of the funds that you spend while in the country are huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it affects everyone.
Yeah.
And you two get to live your passion. You seem very happy to do it. So I love to see that.
Get our addiction.
Brings us joy.
Yeah. Well, do you get any time to travel just on your own? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. We travel a lot together. We travel a lot separately. We lead groups. We have our own travels. Yeah.
We always try, I would say, we'll travel for work. For example, we're going to Chile for the Adventure Travel World Summit. And then we're going to do something after, just the two of us to hang out, decompress, enjoy, And so we always kind of try to work that in.
Yeah.
Have some personal time with the work time.
Yeah.
You got to do it. Awesome. Well, it's such a great conversation. Is there anything else we didn't cover you'd like to tell our listeners about yourself or Finisterre?
I think you covered it all.
You did pretty well.
All right. How do we find you?
You can find us online at finisterra.ca. You can follow us on social media. You can look at the hashtag Worldly Girlies or Finisterra Travel on Instagram or whatever your social preference may be.
Easy to find and maybe even easier. We'll link out on our page when we get this up on our website and share it on social media so everyone will be able to find you very easily. Well, Keri and Nicola, it's been an absolute pleasure. The time has flown by. Thanks for joining me.
It's easy talking about travel.
Yeah.
Always fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I'm inspired. My wife and I have been planning one of our first big international trips with our children, now just 6 years old. It's tempting just to take them to an all-inclusive, something simple, but it's just not inspiring. We want them to get their hands dirty and see fascinating wildlife and enrich themselves with new cultures and have experiences that will guide them and mold them and show them the world. Finisterre does things like that. Not only do you leave destinations better than you found them, you'll return better than you left. And that's real travel. So check them out at finisterra.ca. Come to explore-mag.com and we will link out to their socials and website and take a look at what they have. I'm sure you'll find it as inspiring as you found this podcast. Thanks for listening today. I'm David Webb, and hey, live the adventure.